All right, we were on prayer.
Okay.
So prayer, I chose option B. Prayer is a form of meditation and experiencing God's presence without necessarily asking for anything.
And I chose A and B. Prayer is primarily about asking God for help or oneself or others. And it's a form of meditation and experiencing God's presence without necessarily.
Which I agree with that. The only reason I chose B is because it did say it doesn't have to necessarily be asking for anything, but you could, but you do. So I agree. It's asking and his presence.
Yeah, and I think it's all good to like be stuck between two or be like, I align with both of these, because it's not like we're not trying to put you so much in like a very narrow box, just trying to understand, like, have you understand your own belief system.
Yeah.
And do you think prayer is a symbolic gesture
No,
rather than a direct communication with God?
I actually think it's B.
Oh, good. You're with us.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, which seems the opposite of the other things I've said, right? So I mean, that's
yeah, because some of the options, I thought the options were interesting on this one. Prayer is a communal activity that strengthens the bond among believers. It is that. I don't think it's just that, but it is that to me. Prayer is an expression of faith, but does not influence God's actions. I was always shown the verses in the Bible where it did influence his actions, which I always took a lot of comfort in that, because I would really struggle with prayer. Just, he hears us, but we can't change things. I mean, because of losing my parents when I was young, and that being very hard, losing my mom and being very hard on me, I was very much couldn't handle that there was just what was going to happen, and I'm just kind of in the world. Then what is the point? And my sister would always point out when praying really did, because I'm like, why am I having to pray so much then, or ceasing, and she would point out how prayer did change God and his heart, and he would listen, and so that really always comforted me. So that was a big deal to me.
I always get stuck on that, like when you're praying for like a good parking spot or something, or like your team to win, where it's like clearly
the other team, what other people want that parking spot, other teams to win. But that's my whole, it's right. I always feel like there's certain things that we as humans think are so important, and then there's the things that you're praying for, like your dying loved one.
No. I'm not making fun of your.
I don't think
Oh, okay. I didn't want you to feel that way. No, I think for me, it's this concept of like prayer changes me, right? Prepares me, soothes me, is a balm to me, is a boost, is a place of gratitude, right? And so for me, it's a little bit of both, right? It's this concept that like, yes, oh my God, one of the reasons why I couldn't choose just B is because almost all of my prayers start with, dear Jesus, please help me for the love of God.
Yeah.
I'm, and that's the world I live in.
Yeah, that's why it had to have the option for me.
Yeah.
But also I love the idea, and also I was taught when I worried about prayer a lot, obviously, growing up, but was that God loves us so much that, just like for our kids, we want to do surprises or little things just because that, he would give me a parking spot just because, or, little
treat.
Out of love. He just, that kind of thing I love too.
I think becoming a parent was one place where I definitely started to feel like I understood God differently. Like, because this idea of a father figure, right? Or and how much, like, I get angry with our kids. I mean, like, that is a thing that happens. But even in those moments, I'm like, oh my God, I love you so much. I can't handle it. And I just want you to get this right. And I just want your life to go smoothly and be perfect and happy. And that's why I'm mad at you, because you're not functioning properly, whatever. And it was in those moments that I started to heal that piece of me that was like sinners in the hands of an angry God piece of me, right? This concept. So prayer is also, I think, for me, and this is something that Dean helped me understand very much, and that is that he just wants to spend time. Like how thrilled I am when Ellie walks into she's moving my pen.
She's clicking the pen like every 5 seconds.
So when Ellie walks into the kitchen and she's like, Mom, I have a story, and I'm like, I'm so excited, I can hardly breathe or move, and I'm like, don't make big movements because she'll leave,
Because I'm always like kind of chill about it, and I'm like still making my coffee and like, yeah, what's up? And she'll just tell me this long story, and I'll just listen. And Heidi will be like, well, and then what was he wearing? And then what happened? And she's like, Mom,
sit down next to her.
And she's like, let's talk more about it. And she's like, no, I'm good. I just want to tell you the story. And I'm like, just chill, baby. Just
no chill.
Just listen.
No chill when it comes to that. Anyway, okay.
So we all agree on great. Perfect. Look at that. Angels and demons.
Okay, so I chose D. Angels are spiritual beings serving God, while demons are fallen angels.
Oh, what?
What did you choose?
What did you choose?
B, angels and demons are real, personal beings that interact with the world, but not that demons are fallen angels. I thought only Satan was the fallen angel. Or maybe not.
No, there was like a big war. And
I didn't know it was demons though. I thought they were
Lucifer
I thought they were fallen angels. I didn't know the demons all out there. I mean, I just probably am not as educated on that piece, I guess.
or I have no idea what I'm talking about, and
This
you're
is
right.
awesome. I don't know. That's like initial reactions.
See, you were right. It was good that we didn't talk about this last night.
So wait, what do you think?
Yeah.
I think A and E.
Angels and demons are symbolic representations of good and evil, and angels and demons are psychological archetypes rather than real beings.
I mean, those fit together. They do.
Yeah.
I want to believe that that's true, but
I believe that they are definitely real, and I mean, mostly because more than what I was raised on this one, but because of actual interactions in real life that people have had that cannot be explained in any other way. That wasn't just a story I heard. And so um there has been actual angel, you know how you can read books on angels? It's actually happened in my family with kids that I was raising and nieces and nephews, that angels, and I was right there. And then a d a crazy story, but my sister was in a place, like in a play, and there were witches that were practicing witchcraft in the play, like also were in the community theater, and she found that out. And I mean, things like cats were going missing and found like stuff was happening in this town, and she was known for being like an ordained minister and a really big Christian, and there ended up being a demon situation that happened that could not be explained in any other way. And it was one of those moments where she was lying in bed, and her husband was in the shower, and she could hear the shower running, and like the little light coming from the door, and she was kind of, you're awake but you're sleeping in, kind of not ready to get up, and all of a sudden she felt, she had her eyes closed because she was resting, but she felt like what would happen, let's say her husband came out of the shower and he put his knee on the bed and went to lean over her to maybe give her a kiss, and so she felt the bed sink down like someone's knee, and felt the presence, and was like, oh, he's going to give me a kiss, and just thought she could hear the shower running, so she's like, oh, he probably just running it to get hot, and so she was like, hi honey. And all of a sudden she felt one hand grab her neck, one hand grab her arm and pin it to the bed, and actually got her arm pinned to the bed, and then another hand pin her other arm to the bed. And that's too many hands. So now three hands pinning her. And she was trying to yell her ex-husband's name is Peter. She was trying to yell his name and trying to get Peter out. Peter, Peter, Peter. And she couldn't get his name out. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't talk. And all of a sudden, she heard a voice in her head say, "Don't say Peter. Don't say Peter." And so she tried instead to say Jesus. And the moment she went to say Jesus, the name screamed out. When she said Peter, it wouldn't come out. When she went to say Jesus, it Jesus. And immediately, all hands let go. And this light went across the room that she opened her eyes, and just this like almost sparkly light. And her husband then walked out of the bathroom, and he looked at her and said, "Oh my gosh, Lori, what happened? You're glowing." And so that story has, I mean, so to me, I'm like, and so she told me this story, and she was like, always say Jesus. We're always taught that, but it's not like, she's like, always say Jesus. And to her, it ended up being the scary thing that turned into the most beautiful feeling she'd ever felt in her life. So calming, so peaceful, that she doesn't even think back of it as scared because of the peace. And then Heidi had an angel experience while I was living here in our driveway. It freaked me the fuck out, just knowing about it. But because she's the one experiencing the angel, she came in, so she could tell it was protective of her and so peaceful. And she was like, oh my gosh, encountered an angel in our driveway, and she felt so great about it. And I was like, my gosh, lock all the doors.
Like, lock the doors, what the hell?
Like, I believe in them and I know that it was protected, but and so I'm very much behind the curtain. There is powers at play in a real thing.
It's interesting what you're saying, because I'm thinking about different experiences or spiritual experiences that I've had with energies and things like that. I guess I had never really framed them as angels and demons.
Yeah.
And I still wouldn't, but I don't think we're necessarily talking about something different.
Right.
Maybe the way that
we are wording it.
Right. And the way that we've internalized different things we have different language for it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's like a war going on between good and evil on the spiritual plane, but I do think there's negative energy, and I do think there's positive energy. And I think that you can have interactions with those energies while you're still in the body.
Yeah, because like, I mean, I remember my nephew, like, I mean, he would interact, and Owen too, and different because there's stories of them interacting with angels and how they describe them, and he would literally be pointing and being like, the man sitting on the pastor's shoulder and be interacting, and I mean, all my hair standing up, and then certain things would happen in the room, and things where a child's innocent could see stuff that I couldn't.
Yes.
And then I won't even get into the story, but I had an insane experience that actually I will tell you the story. It's a great story. So I was in a car as a teen back when I met Heidi, and I was in a car with a friend, and it was he was driving his mom's old, like really big Oldsmobile, with the bench seat in the front, and like this antique car, and he's driving it, and I'm in the back seat, buckled in, she's in the passenger, and he's in the driver's seat, and no one, sitting in that little middle seat. And we were exiting the freeway to literally stop at, the off-ramp stoplight to just cross the street and go to McDonald's across the street for a bathroom break. So we're literally like seconds away from getting out of the car. And as we're coming off the off-ramp and he's coming to a stop to then we're just going to cross the street and get out of the car, there was no thoughts in my head, but I unbuckled. I got up, I jumped to the front seat. And I started screaming at my friend to move over. And her name is Millie, and we still talk about this today. And I'm like, move over. And she's looking at me like, and she wasn't moving over fast enough. So I took my elbow and started slamming it into her ribs to get over. And I'm like, move. And I mean, physically, to the point she unbuckled and jumped over. And the moment I fell between her in the seat, between the driver and her, a semi did not hit his brakes behind us, an 18-wheeler, and took out the back of the car. And right where I was sitting was missing. And now we both don't have seatbelts on. So we're supposed to obviously go through the window because it was such a bad wreck. I mean, ambulances, the whole thing. And instead of shooting through the window, we were laid gently backwards, and our head was just laid into glass, but no cuts, just like as if it was a pillow. And like no fear, and just this, and the paramedics didn't understand it. Everyone wanted to pay me money. He lost it. I mean, it was they were like, it was this huge ordeal. And my sister, at the time, I was always just like, and my sister always says, well, remember when the angel, saved your life and laid you into the pillow of glass? I'm always like, oh, like, oh. And so that's always been the story of like, and there's more stories like that where I just was like, oh, I'm on this earth for something right now. I don't know why, actually I shouldn't be brushing my teeth right now, kind of thing. And so just like, and that's why I ended up getting a book, because there's books out there like Angels Among Us, or there's all different books, but I love reading stories of people having these unexplained beings where they literally see a being walk up to them and no one else sees them, and then the being disappears and it saves their life. And there's so many books out there where it's just like, to me, I'm like, there are angels among us, and mine are very tired. That's what my sister always tells me. She goes, oh, Dean, your angels are so tired.
Yeah.
And see, and I do, and it's so just interesting to hear the context of what you're saying, because I do think that we have some kind of spirit guide.
Yeah.
Like, can I prove it? No. But do I think that there's spirit guides around us, helping us, directing us? I do think that. So it's like, We just have different language for the same types of phenomena.
Yeah. All right.
Because I
Did you tell us your answer?
Wait,
totally with you on that. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I did. I said the form of, right? Wait. Oh,
Yeah.
the angels and demons. Sorry. About
Psychological archetypes.
Right.
Yeah. You said A. You said
and
A
there's more
B.
symbolic of
Yeah.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean I don't believe in spirits.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Okay.
Okay, so biblical inerrancy.
Dun,
So I
dun.
chose C and E, which is the Bible is a sacred text, but it should be interpreted in light of modern knowledge, and the Bible is a collection of myths and moral teachings rather than a literal account.
Okay. I chose D and A in that order. D is the Bible is inspired by God, but includes human errors and biases. And A, the Bible contains errors and reflects the cultural context in which it was written. So we had completely different answers.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That doesn't surprise me though.
I mean, yeah, like I don't think I can take my pen and write E on my paper and then go to sleep at night. I don't think I can because I'm pretty sure I don't think I can write that the Bible is a collection of myths and moral teachings rather than a literal account. But I like the idea of that. So it makes sense that I married someone that believes that.
But
And
I also
her mind fascinates me. I'm always like, oh, tell me more.
Yeah.
creepy. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do there. I obviously, because of who I think Jesus is and who I think God is, right? And those things, I don't believe that they're myths, right? So like I think that those things are real. But I also am so okay with encountering it through like a human, again, like this idea of semantics for me, like when I started understanding that like the way we talk about things and the concept of language and this like we're limited and it's finite, right? And we're describing and encountering something that is infinite and indescribable and unfathomable. And so when you start to think of God as this like unfathomable infinite thing, of course we're going to put that into words that we can fathom and that do limit and that identify certain things that, because otherwise we're just going to be talking about something we cannot understand. Like we do not have language to describe things we don't understand. We don't.
Right.
So we use these words. And so I am comfortable with these words being sort of an illusion of this thing that we could not otherwise describe, right? And that is why I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah,
right?
and I definitely now more. I was obviously raised that it was literal, and I do not believe that anymore. And definitely don't believe that it's not without error, like I was raised. More it being a book of moral teachings, rather than a literal account, I definitely can get down with. Just a collection of myths, I think, is what I had the problem with. And I do believe it's inspired by God, but unfortunately it can be God inspired and then it goes in the hands of humans and he lets us get involved and then we fuck it all up. So that's pretty much, I think he inspired something that then humans fucked it up and a bunch of white males are responsible for my trauma. But there you go. But so yeah, I do think, and then also very much the humans that were doing this are writing it from their cultural context, and they don't live in 2025. So the fact that
and if they did, we would just not accept that that was the inspired word of God. We just wouldn't.
Well, and how
Exactly.
old they
It's
would look
comical.
too.
Yeah.
They have a lot of wrinkles. Okay, so what is your answer on the Bible?
So mine is actually a mix of the four of yours, but B is off the table.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, so
These
B
are
is, so
hard
I'll
to
read
do.
B. B is the Bible is completely without error in its original manuscripts.
Yeah.
Which I was raised that way, and 100% that is unbelievably ridiculous and not true.
Tell your
Yeah,
family it's not all my fault.
I don't think that my family believes that either.
Okay, good. I just don't want to.
Because if you look at like cultural context, yes. Being it's a sacred text. Yes. Why not? Right?
Yeah, sacred text.
Right? Like
sacred text.
Right? Interpreted in modern knowledge. Yes, because we can go
Yeah.
back to cultural context, right? human errors and biases, of course, because we simply can't help it, even if they were doing their damnedest, right?
Yes, of course.
And then the myths, I think that sometimes the Bible explains things in ways through spirituality and God that can now be understood better through science, but they didn't really understand that at the time. So I think some of the stuff can be myths, like river turning red. God turned this river red. Well, now we know that actually that's happened in another place in Africa, and it was due to
algae.
Yeah, so it's like at that time they didn't know that, right?
What?
Yeah, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That
so
was algae, and
The Red
there
Sea was algae?
there was a chemical interaction between the algae and some kind of, it was either like a pollen or like a or a pollutant, right? And I can't remember now if it was a pollen or a pollutant. I think it was a pollutant. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But it turned the tide red. It's just like bioluminescence, right? The idea that there's living things, and as the waves roll over, see, this is what happens.
And it creates and it created like a toxin.
Yes.
And the toxin went on the ground and it would kill people or animals. And then you can equate that back
and they're just like, God changed.
But when the Egyptian children died, but the Jewish children didn't, but the Egyptian kids were on the ground culturally and the Jewish kids were up higher. So like, was that God or was it the few?
Oh my goodness.